Why don't you
A
tell me about what's going on in NYCFC?
No, I'm gonna go to TFC instead because I don't like you transitioning on top of my transitions.
But I'm the transition guy.
You were not. I hate to break it to you, you are not.
I decreed this multiple episodes ago that I was the transition guy.
So in the game of football, everybody's got roles and responsibilities. Yours are to sit there and sound dumb, right? That's your job.
Well, I already do that to perfection, so I'm trying to expand my game a little bit.
Your resume doesn't need expanding. Nobody else is looking for podcast hosts. I'm sorry.
Not
Um,
yet.
Spin-off Connor's solo series.
I mean, the season's wrapping up, free agents, the transfer market's gonna be hot coming in the next season.
Yeah, I'll hit up I'll hit up the designated pundits. I'm sure they need another one for you.
It'd be easy transition for me. Basically the
Yeah.
same name.
All right. Well, let's go to New York. Red Bull have sent many a coach packing.
Oh,
None
here we go.
none greater than the Jose Mourinho 2015 saga where he got walked by Red Bull 2, Tyler Adams, Sean Davis, and co. And then 3 weeks later was fired by Chelsea. What a great series. And now Nick Cushing is added to that list after the embarrassing performance on the baseball field to their rivals in the playoffs. Nick Cushing, who 2 weeks ago basically put it in stone that he was coming back next year no matter what, is now walking. Would you consider his tenure successful? Do you think his time in New York City was something that you can say, yep, that was all right?
No. I mean, I don't I think it's hard to blame him a ton because that team got gutted. And I think he was just kind of working with what he was left over with. And I think the investments weren't exactly the smartest, but I mean, that's another story in another episode. But I mean, he came in for the 2023 season where they missed the playoffs. And then this season, I don't want to say just gets them in, but he gets them in comfortably, but not high up. I mean, sixth in the Eastern Conference and gets bounced by their rivals in the second round. No trophies to show for as far as I remember, unless I missed something from the season. So
He had the Campeones Cup in 21-22, which, as you and as an Atlanta fan know, is very, very important.
did he win that though? Because he started in like November 2022.
Yeah, he has it as a caretaker manager.
Okay. Well, Mickey Mouse Trophy anyway, unless we're talking about Atlanta. No, I mean, I wouldn't say it was successful, but again, I don't fully put the blame on him because I don't think the investments have been very good for this team. Not that they haven't tried, they've spent money. It was just more long term, and he was going to get screwed over in the short term with spending 8 million on like Ojeda. It's like an 18-year-old. He's not going to come onto the scene and just destroy everything. Like that's a project that's going to take some time, and I think for him to save his job, he needed more stuff in the short term, and I don't think they backed him as much as they could have in that regard. Especially when you lose a lot of key players over the few seasons right before he joins. So definitely not successful, but I don't fully blame him.
I could not disagree more. I think that he was a, I won't use total failure because I don't think anybody's a total failure, but this man got given like high eight figures in transfer fees for players that were supposed to make a difference in their attack. They brought in Mijatovic, Bakrar, Alonso Martinez did step up. Hannes Wolf has been okay. Julian Fernandez, Augustine Ojeda. Yes, all players who take up there are three positions for those eight players that I just listed. You can't play them all, right? But you were supposed to find a way to get all of that investment to work. And if your biggest highlight for that is one playoff win against an FCC side that was slumping and you needed penalties to do it over 3 years, and that's not to mention, right, the Tyus Magno moves. And actually, let me pull these up here while we're
Okay, well then I'll jump in while you pull it up because I have
yeah, I
it
got
up on my end. I mean,
it's
that's like
23 million, 23 million, 24 million in this past year. They bought in Matthias Pellegrini, nice. 8 million 2 years before that. And then he came in midway 2021, right? Was that the what we decided? Or that
no, he came in at the end of 2022.
End of 2022. I'm sorry. So he came in, no, caretaker midway 2022. So he took over in mid 2022.
Yeah, not midway 2022. He was. It says so. Ronnie Dylo left in. Oh, maybe he was. Oh, okay. So no, he was sorry. He was the interim midway, and then he became full time at the end of
Yeah.
the year.
And what's the phrase that follows something like that?
I have no idea.
You were right. Thank you.
Well, you said 2021 at first, so you
Correct.
were
And then I said, wait, no, correct me. And then you
okay,
tried
and
to
then
and you
I
got it wrong.
corrected myself too.
So
So
he inherited a team with Thiago Andrade, Tyus Magno, Malte Amundsen, who is no longer on the team but came in that way, Nicholas Acevedo, Keaton Parks, or in terms of like big moves, right? Then he came in and they gave him Gabby Pereira, Thiago Martins. The year after was Matija Ilinic, who I won't count there. And then in his most recent year, $24 million worth of transfer fees in Mijatovic, in Ojeda, in Fernandez, in Bakrar. And Bakrar was terrible. Ojeda, Fernandez both didn't see the field. Mijatovic is asking for a move because Nick Cushing couldn't get the best out of him. You're correct that this was a group of players that they wanted to see maybe in a project kind of focus. He did not progress the project. Those players did not get better under him. Some of them got worse. That is a not a successful tenure to me, if that is what they were going for, right? You can talk about how they also didn't make the playoffs last year and how they barely got away from Cincinnati this year, and they relatively underperformed as they should have. All of that's out there, but if you're being given $24 million worth of players to develop and become good at something, and there was no visible improvement from any of those players, can you tell me how many goals Julian Fernandez scored this year? I can't,
no.
right? No, because those players who were bought in for $8 million. I'm sorry, Fernandez was 4 million. Augustino Ojeda was 7 million. Mijatovic was 8 million. Mijatovic with 8 million made 11 appearances this year. $8 million for 11 appearances. Just to break that down in terms of minutes, played 264 minutes. You paid $8 million for him. That's mental. That's insane. That's why that's not a successful tenure to me, because it's quite clear they put an investment in and he didn't get the best out of it.
Okay, I want to specify a couple things. One, I never said that it was a successful tenure. I did not say it was
But
successful.
you didn't hate on him like you should
Well,
when it
I
comes to New
caveated
York
it
City.
because I think the team gave him a really hard situation to work with because he comes in and you're like insane turnover in this team. Like, and I haven't figured out the exact timing, so I don't know if this happened like right before or right after he came in. But Tinnerholm, Cayens, Sean Johnson, Maxi Morales, Eber, Tati Castellanos, and Gabby Pereira are all gone within like a year's worth of time. And then their solution is, okay, we're gonna spend a lot of money, but here's a bunch of teenagers. Go figure out how to win now. Like we just took out all these key players that were taking up a lot of minutes and being really successful. Go redo everything, and here are a bunch of teenagers to get it done with. It's like I think you can make a point to what you were saying, where guys got worse under him, and I don't think that's a good sign of him in terms of his success. But it's hard to be like, hey, go like challenge at the top of the East because we spent a lot of money, so we should be. But it's like you brought in like 18, 19-year-old kids, and you just expect to like be able to completely turn around this entire 11 and be competing at the top just because you spent $7, $8 million.
Okay, I understand that, but again, you got to remember that there is an agenda on this pod, and you need to stick to it. Yeah, so I still don't think you can call it a success. I think that's where we have agreed on. We found that agreement, middle ground. Great. When does Pep come? Because Man
Got
City
to be on
quite
his
ain't what
way. I mean, look at
I
Man
say.
City right now.
Man City don't want him no more. So, and he's not going to stick around when they get relegated to the ninth division. So, um, is there
Yeah,
anybody?
tell Pep to come over here after he gets relegated 9 divisions. Tell him to come to MLS because he can never get relegated
That's
here.
right. That is right. What's the one thing we got going for us? Job security. Because as you know, there are no consequences in MLS. There's literally nothing that can go wrong here. You can never win a game the entire time and nobody will ever fire you. Ignore the episodes that we've done on the 10 managers that got fired this year.
Ignore the current episode we're
Ignore
recording right
this
now.
completely. No consequences whatsoever. Because we know
We're
Pep is
actually just talking
listening.
about a football manager save we're doing right now. This is all just made up.
Bro, that'd be a fun podcast too, the Football Manager podcast. Spin-off.
Oh
Um,
God, here we go.
no, who could be next? I think Pep Guardiola, like, I don't think it's an out of this world thing. He's got the city connections, and they'd pay him a dumb amount of money to do bang average in here, and he'd just be a face. But is there anybody else that jumps out to you as like, oh, who's going to take the next? I heard, well, no, Patrick Vieira was on the table, but he's gone now, right?
Yeah, he's gone now. I think it's hard for me to say because I think they're going to go outside of MLS. I feel like that's been their track
Yeah,
record.
yeah. Chris
Um,
Harmis isn't making a move anytime soon. I'll tell you that.
not unless he goes back to Man United and then he wants to jump over. But
Hmm.
so I can't really think of a name. I don't think Pep's coming, and not anytime soon at least. But I think it'll be somebody probably with city connections from their
Hmm.
1 billion teams that's under their umbrella. Who will probably end up getting the move here. That'd be my guess. But I don't have a specific name for you. It'd be too hard to come up with one.
Yeah, I always like to look, and again, we joked about this with Vancouver, right? Being like, oh, they'll go within. You know, a lot of these guys have been pulled. Domi Torrent, Ronnie Deila, I think, were all pulled as like assistant managers on City or like assistant managers in other places. So like this random name like Carlos Vicens, the assistant manager at City, probably could make that move, and nobody will ever have heard of him, and it's not out of the blue, right? Spanish, Juan Malilo. Like I said, there are a ton of people here who you can just be like, yeah, just pick that guy out because and we can go down the list, like you said, of the nine different teams that they've got and just pick and pop. Any of those assistant coaches probably would get that move because that's what this is. It's a development program for the European things, just like Red Bull is for the European Red Bulls, right? Even though we are the best Red Bull out of all the Red Bulls right now, which is fun. It actually is true. We were looking at it before. Like the Brazilian one is like in the relegation zone. The Austrian one's about to get knocked out of the Champions League. The German one's about to get knocked out of the Champions League. They're like fifth in the two-team Bundesliga. Like it's crazy. So no, it's super super interesting. But I think that's a really good point, right? You genuinely could just be like pick out this random assistant coach on one of the city football groups, and they could join us, and nothing will change. It'll be the same sort of style. They're going to play the same sort of tactics, and they'll pick and pull three youth kids, drop them in there, and let them develop here. But I think it'll be interesting to see. One of the things that Major League Journeyman were talking about is like whoever comes is going to demand if they're not this kind of like assistant coaches looking for their next step, like they do go out and find somebody like a David Moyes, just because it's the first name I saw here on the available coaches list, right? That dude's going to be able to argue like you better give me a guarantee that I'm here when you open your new stadium. Like I'm not going to play in a baseball stadium for 2 years and then you're going to fire me right before I get to play in the nice one. Like you're going to guarantee that I get nice football. So that'd be really really fun too.